Oh, hey, I'm here again, you guys, but this time we are uptown at the magazine location of the Ruby Slipper. We are coming around the bend with our mayor candidate series, and it's been really enlightening. I am excited to talk about Miss Renata Collins's platform and all about her campaign. She is very excited, and so am I. You can see our little setup right there in the window. It's beautiful. I love Magazine Street. They don't have cornhole, they got views. You look outside these beautiful windows and you can see Magazine Street, the iconic Magazine Street. Okay, shut up, Eric. Let's go.
It's been too long now. I think that I want a second guess you, a second guess me, a second guess them. Don't second guess me. Live in the moment, cause we are so free. And in this moment, life is like a dream.
All right, it's time. And I just got a text that she just parked, so we are going to break it down. Renata Collins is about to walk in the building, and we're going to get to it. But I'm going to drink my coffee and wake up first. And then we're going to eat some brunch. Because, Ruby Slipper, you got to go to Ruby Slipper if you go to for, brunch. We about to chow down, baby. Let's do it. All right, we're up and at 'em. Ruby Slipper on Magazine Street, and I'm here again with mayor candidate, this time Miss Renata Collins, and she is joining me, and we're going to talk about her campaign. We're going to talk about her personally. We're going to talk about her platform and what she hopes to accomplish. It's exciting because I can feel her enthusiasm. We're running a little bit behind, parking and etc. It's a bit much sometimes, but we are going to hit the ground running. And I am grateful that you're able to sit down with me and I get to know you and vice versa. So welcome to the show. And with that said, Ms. Collins, I'd love to talk about personally, where you're coming from. I looked at your site and I didn't see anything that was personal. So I kind of want to go explore that avenue. And if you're from New Orleans, if you have a family, and what part of New Orleans, I'd love to hear all of that.
Eric, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for having me here. Thank you to all of the NolaPapa audience for this time and just sitting here with me to learn who I am, as our overall objective should be to come together in unity so that we can transform our city. My name is Renata Collins. I was born and raised right here in New Orleans in 1980, April the 1st, right? And uptown. Yeah, born and raised right on Annunciation Street. Then we traveled to the 7th Ward, like we went for, right? So after we was here uptown, then we traveled to the 7th Ward, stayed there for a while. I went to Valina C. Jones School, McDonald 42 in Gregory. And times for my mom, because I was born and raised in a single family household, but it was still amazing because for a long period of time, it was my mom and her sister. And so they shared homes. My mom has 5 children. Her sister has 5 children. And guess how many bedrooms we lived in? A 2.5 bedroom. The best in crazy days here in New Orleans in the 7th Ward, but it was filled with, looking back, it was filled with so much passion, so much development, so much creativity, learning to understand your dislikes and likes, creating your own personality, because I'm so different. I am, but we all are different. We all are different. I have 4 siblings. You guys may know one of them because he's very popular. He was on the DJ Jubilee, do the sissy boo wham, the sissy boo wham. Okay. That is my brother. Okay. So he's very popular because we grew up in the uptown area. And so even though my mama traveled with me to the 7th Ward, him and my oldest sibling and my oldest cousin siblings, they basically stood, they would always still come to the uptown area and enjoy a lot of the festivities, the parties, and things of that nature. Well, but because I'm the second to the youngest, my mom had a tight grip on me. She had a very tight grip on me, and by the time she had me, she had became more religious. Where in the beginning, when she had the other ones, it wasn't as religious, right? So that's a big separation, huh? It's a big separation now that I think about it. So my upbringing was a little bit different than my other siblings' upbringing, but yet we was all still grounded. Even when she became into religion and things of that nature, she did put a hold on all of us, but she had a tighter hold on me. So much so that I had to be the first child in the family to graduate from high school on my mom's side, which is when my great-grandmother gave my mom a house in St. Charles Parish, and I graduated from Destrehan. I did 3 years in Destrehan. Big change. A change so much that when I moved to Minnesota after Hurricane Katrina, that I started a nonprofit organization called SIZE, Summer Youth Explorator, because I believe that poverty is due to the lack of equal exposure. And when I got out of a lifestyle of guns, drugs, sex, and violence, right, in my natural environment, coming up in the 7th Ward, going into Desire. Oh, I almost forgot the Desire. Lived in the Desire as well. So that was a different environment going to St. Charles Parish, even though in the area which I grew up in wasn't as much different as the city of New Orleans, but the school environment was so different. Those children was pulling up in Navigators and Lexus. Oh no, the school system was a whole lot better. It was a whole lot better. I mean, they had a higher level of access to resources. So in St. Charles Parishes, the resources are a whole lot more better than the city of New Orleans. So I say all those experiences, and it shaped me for now. Born and raised, like I said, here in New Orleans. When I graduated in '99, I started to travel with a company called Advantage, and I would travel from state to state. I went to Illinois, St. Louis, Minnesota, all of that little mid area of the city, of the country, United States. So when Katrina took place, it was easy for me not to come back. In fact, I went to Minnesota and I lived there for 4.5 years. And I say all those experiences built me for this moment. I lived in California. I lived in Minnesota. I lived in Atlanta because I had just moved back to New Orleans June the 30th of 2005, right before Katrina. And I started my makeup line in 2005, August the 14th, right before Katrina. And I did not have any insurance. So you imagine how that was. Whew. So, but as resilient as I am, I still have my cosmetic skincare line, but I don't work it as much. I only service my already customers. But that's resilient because if I tell you how resilient I am with that story, you'll be like, wow. So I dealt with the August the 14th, having everything invested into the company, experiencing Hurricane Katrina, losing everything. Then I started selling in the flea markets in Houston. I absolutely love it. The people are amazing. The products works for all skin types, all skin complexions. So it was amazing for the response in the area. And then,
with the it's a great ambition to be mayor of New Orleans. So with your rearing growing up and having your auntie and your mom, uh, guiding you maybe, and you seeing the attributes that they had, I'm sure that you applied that into who you are today. So with your platform, where do you and your campaign, where does it differ from the current administration?
excellent question. Excellent question. One thing we're going to not do is change, but transform. That's key. Because changing is from one seat. You can change seats, right? But transformation is that caterpillar to butterfly situation, which means that we have to have a new mindset, a new way of doing things. And so what that means for me is that my goal is to also assist the community with taking on a new form of currency. Currency, we understand the money aspects of it so much to where we have the digital aspect of it. My goal is to get above the future possibility of those things failing us and saying, understanding who you are as a person and whatever good you have and commodity you have, that we trade, so that when and if digital currency or the note is destroyed, we won't be destroyed. We won't be left behind, but we'll be able to be thriving in any environment because we have the resources of accountability to one of us, understanding that you as a person is the most valuable, and that we will trade. We will learn to trade and communicate. We will build each other up. The resources will be here on the ground level. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have to become a community again. That's going to be extremely important for us to thrive in any environment. They tell us that we need multiple streams of income, but they never tell us that the best stream of income we can have is to rely on the resources of one another. If you bake bread or if you cook or whatever that is that you do, and no, I may not give you no green currency, but you may need a babysitter. You may need someone to tailor your clothes, and I have that ability to do so. So when we exchange goods and services amongst one another as a community throughout the city of New Orleans, we're going to thrive in any environment. That's what we must do. That's transformation. That's community. And that's New Orleans. And it's our culture. What would happen? When my mom and my auntie will cook, the doors was open to anyone in the community. And that you didn't have to have $1. You didn't have to leave a tip. You just had to come and enjoy. And that was powerful. And I remember, because we lived on North Durgeon for a while, I remember the neighbors. We wasn't the only one who had large families living in one home, because there was the neighbors next door to us. They had like about 15 to 12, but they had like a 3-4 bedroom, right? Because we was right behind where Triangle Deli is now. So we live right on North Durgeon between Havana in St. Bernard. So that's the area where we grew up, and we had that tight-knit family. It's so much so to where when Christmas would come up and we would walk to the Superdome, all of us in the neighborhood, my mom, my auntie, the neighbors right here, and we would walk to the Superdome to get our toys. That was family. That's united. That was togetherness. And then some of them would ride back on bikes because they didn't got a bike from the Superdome. And we had our toys. They had the balls. And it was all so much fun. Like, my mama didn't even have a car. My aunt didn't have a car. Nobody in the community band had a car. But we were amazing, and we were great together.
I love that, because that is pivotal memories that sit in the front. We live in a time now to where, you don't know what's going to happen outside. Especially in New Orleans, we get a bad rap, because it's true for the most part. We do live in a very crimey situation. So you being able to covet those really special memories with your family and your community, and take that trek to the Superdome to get your gifts, that's really special. And I really hope that as we march forward in the future, that we get a grip on safety and speaking up and not being complacent. If you see something, say something. That makes everything safer. So I want to get into the knit and grit, okay? So I am passionate about a lot of things. One of the things, the homelessness situation in New Orleans, and like I've done with all of our candidates that we've sat down with, I haven't sent anything to them. They don't know what I'm going to ask. We've had communication, but I haven't sent any kind of questions. So I would love to know your plan and how you plan to counteract the homelessness rise. I know Councilmember Leslie Harris implemented a really awesome program just last year, and within this time period, there have been really awesome, great movement in getting these people housed. But what do you do when you get them housed and then others come right after? It's like one after another. It's an endless process. So what would you do to, A, help the people get off the street, but two, because Houston has their own plan and we adapted it, but we have left out some key things that Houston does that we don't do. So I would love to know what you would do differently or your plan in general.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that question, because it's a great question, right? And I'm a core diver. I don't deal with things on the surface. So what is the one fact of why we even have homelessness? I want to say, and you could tell me your perspective, because it's a perspective and it's from observation. The Airbnbs and Bs are taking over our community. We must minimize how much Airbnbs and Bs are in the community, right? We have to bring that inventory back into the community. Now, am I going to say, hey, we're going to get rid of Airbnbs altogether in the communities? Yes. You know where they're going to go? We're going to have tourist areas, right? I don't mind. Because see, transformation is real. And we cannot only just put dollars before people. So if a person does not agree with that, that's fine, right? It's totally fine. But it's not like I don't have a plan. And plus, I have an even better plan. In the area of the East, where the Oakland Island apartments used to exist, I plan to be able to build condominiums for sale to the locals where they are able to purchase those, and that's what short-term rentals will be. Why is that good? It's because we're going to have it near the beaches, not just Lincoln Beach, but Pontchartrain Beach as well, right? And the other great thing about it is it won't be ran by Airbnb. It'll be ran by the city. It'll be ran by the city, which means that we're going to put more of the profits in the pockets of the people, right? So we're going to do that. We're also going to, in addition to that, and I know we're going to homelessness, say I'm a core diver, right? So in order to effectively make us thrive, these are the things that has to be in place so that we could reduce homelessness by increasing the inventory, but yet still giving the community who do utilize that as income as a way of income. The next thing is that I plan to do is just like Uber and Lyft and DoorDash, those would be city-ran opportunities, because not only do I have to end homelessness, I have to create revenue for the city again, for the people of the city, because our revenue stream is depleting in a lot of areas right now. So how do we come in and create revenue and resources for the people who live here, and for the community to thrive in? So right now, I think it's a disgrace that if you're an Uber driver and you have to take a person to the airport, they're giving you $8. That's unacceptable. So when we take and create our own rideshare program under the city leadership, we'll make sure that they could either do an hourly rate or a per ride rate that will be acceptable and reasonable so that they can thrive. Okay, because that's important. A thriving community is where New Orleans is headed.
But what is your plan for homelessness?
Thank you. Remember, I'm not a surface person. It doesn't matter if we could pay for it, but if we don't have the inventory, we're still going to have the issue. So the issue to homelessness in a lot of cases is, since Airbnb has been up and running, it has been taking people 6 months where it used to be 2 weeks where you could find a place to live. So if you can't find a place to reside in, we're going to still have homelessness. The second thing I plan to do is utilizing the resources of our housing development with partnering them with blighted property. Currently, I don't know if you understand how that system works, is when they say they're doing a home ownership program, it takes them 5 years to do so. Well, if we're partnering them with the blighted property, once they're approved to get a loan, instead of that money going into an escrow account just to wait for 5 years, we're going to start using that money to pay for the construction of the blighted property. Then the blighted property takes 6 months to a year. They'll transition from rentership to home ownership, and now we're making them homeowners, which then makes them more invested into the community. And now we're also reducing homelessness because they'll travel from renters into homeowners, and then now we'll have more units available so people can occupy that. And we'll create a better cycle and a better flow for us to be able to occupy. In addition to that, for the homelessness, we also have to consider mental health. Some people do not want to live in traditional housing, right? So then it's being able to do a inventory on the needs and the desires of the people. Now, currently we know the sheriff, they want $13 million, right, to build more, to build a better prison. But they also have 5 or 6, you probably say, now where is this going? They also have 5 or 6 abandoned buildings, right? So imagine us buying those buildings from the sheriff department, and then the one on where they used to house 8,000 inmates, we can turn that into facilities so we can use for to help reduce homelessness. So now we're going to pay them what they want because they utilize their resources, and now we're going to take and build that into homeless shelters and opportunities. We could utilize our personal resources. We just have to tap into them.
Okay. That's a interesting idea. I haven't even thought about the buildings that the sheriff department owns. All right, you tapped into something I'm passionate about. Airbnb. Okay. I am or was a superhost, and on our bottom floor in our same house, there's a difference, and I want to really, for y'all and for you and for everyone, there's a difference in Airbnb hosts. You have prideful super hosts that really take into account your neighbors, your process, your cleanliness, your standards, your reputation, and you live in the same house, right? We live above the first floor. So we have cameras on the outside. It's secure. It's a lifeline. Lifeline. And we bought our house, just giving y'all 411. We bought our house uptown with the plan of downstairs helping our cost of the property taxes, the insurance, everything, by making it a really awesome Airbnb. We did. And hundreds and hundreds of people, never a regret. And then the debacle because the city was late to the game on Airbnb. And we were also thrusted into the same basket as slum landlords from other states that came in and bought property and then left and became trash. That's what happened. And our Airbnb got put into the same basket as the slums, okay? That's wrong, and they should close. But we shouldn't get penalized for it. So when we started and we tried to reapply, because we left, because we couldn't have another Airbnb on the same block. So we left and went to the North Shore. But we're back, and we got denied from Airbnb and the city because there was another Airbnb on the block. Airbnb is a nightmare in the city, but it also shouldn't be it shouldn't be looked down upon because of the slums when you have passionate and really attention to detailed people like me that have superhost status. We should be different. and we shouldn't be put in the same basket like ending Airbnb. Those other people should be ended, but we shouldn't, because we live in the same house and we welcome people from all over the world to enjoy our beautiful city. And if you live in the same house, I could do what the hell I want to. I said it, but I don't, because I have respect for the city and the process. But it's my house.
So I have an agreement with you, right? I do. I also want you to think about two things, because you told me two things that you're passionate about. Now, even though I'm going to ask you this question, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I will ask you this question to consider. Is your passion for homelessness prevention greater than your passion to be a super host for Airbnb? If you had to pick one, which one would you pick? You don't have to do it now. Okay, thank you. That's the same where I'm going. Now, how I'm agreeing with you?
I said homelessness.
Now, how am I agreeing with you? The structure, if it's your home and you're living in it, I don't think that's an issue, right? If you want to share your space in that capacity. My biggest thing is homes that are single dwellings, or even if they're apartments that could be a long-term use, right? I think that that's something that should not be the first priority as an Airbnb, because we have over 10,000 people here in the city of New Orleans who are homeless. In the last 3 years, 10,000. We have 10,000 homeless. 10,000. Now you know about the 1,400 that needs homes. We have 10,000 displaced people. Okay. Yes. So when I'm not saying on the street, we have 1,400. We have 1,400 people who are displaced on the streets, but we have over 10,000 people who are in need of housing. You know, so, and we also had over 24,000 people who've left the city of New Orleans in the last 3 years. Now, that's just not due to homelessness. It's due to the lack of proper financial structure. What am I saying? So most people want to only fight for a higher minimum wage. Do you know if our minimum wage went up along, we would still be doing ourselves a disservice? The poverty wage must increase in order for the resources to be effective. Okay, right now our poverty wage is $7.52. Our minimum wage is $7.25. Our livable wage is $20.90. See the big disconnect? Now let me give you this example. If the minimum wage goes up to $15 or $16 and the poverty wage stays the same, even though the livable wage is still $20.90, the issue is that you would be in a worse situation if the poverty wage stays the same without going up with the minimum wage, because the poverty wage determines the amount of resources you can receive. But if you're automatically over the poverty wage, then your resources are going to go down, right? So the example is I was supposed to have my guy who's supposed to be here today to give us this information, where the last time the poverty wage was adjusted, I want to say it was I know it was sometime in 19 something. It was when rent used to be in the city of New Orleans $200 and $300, right? So, give you an example. If you make $9 an hour and you work 40 hours a week, that's $468 of which you can be able to consider to afford for rent. We know rent is not $468, but the poverty rate of rent is expected to be around $378. There's no place to rent for $378 in the city of New Orleans. So even though you're making $9 and you're only able to, your 30% is $468, you're over that $375. So now you still can't make it, because rent authentically for a one bedroom, I'm using one bedroom standards, is like $1,300, right? So even though you're like, well, I can't afford that according to the poverty wage, you can. So we have to adjust that. Once we adjust the poverty wage, it's going to assist with the resources for housing. It's also going to consider the ones with the resources for medical assistance and things of that nature. And also, when we increase the poverty wage, when you retire, your retirement will go up, because the poverty wage will dictate your ability to have resources for you accordingly. So if a person, if they get the $3,000 or $2,000 or $1,000 of retirement, they they won't get any food stamps assistance, housing assistance, emergency assistance because they're over the poverty wage. Yes. So, and that's my goal to, I have to create a bill with the city's help, right? The community's help, and say, hey, we need to, because I can't fix that, but together we can go and create this new bill where we levy with the governor and say, hey, listen, let's increase our poverty wage so that we can thrive in our community again. So that's what we have to do. So imagine the minimum wage can stay the same because most people are not already making more than minimum wage. So that's not the problem. The problem is the poverty wage. I mean, the average person is making $10 because they're making $10. They don't qualify for the resources. Imagine if they stayed at $10 an hour, but we increase that poverty wage to $15 an hour. Ooh, everybody getting resources. Everybody's qualifying because now you're working here and you still can get the other essentials you need. Thank you, baby. Thank you, honey. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. That's what we must do in order to create the change.
Because the resources gets cut off the more they make. So if you bump that up for them to get resources but still make more money, then they'd be able to work on their mind, work on all the things that they need to get accomplished while hitting the bottom line. That's good. That's good.
Also, my plan is it's appearing that Donald Trump is going to give the state to housing, the power to the state. If that happens and I have power as the mayor, my goal is to not make the housing people specific, but home specific, right? What are you saying, Renata? So say you're a landlord and you want to put your home to our affordable resources opportunity. So we would pay you anywhere from, it's a 1 bedroom, we would pay you anywhere from $500 to $800 for your 1 bedroom. But for us to do that, you must promise and operate where you only charge a tenant $500. So it doesn't matter how much money they make because it's not on their income, it's on your house. And so you would have to promise and sign a promissory note that you will not charge a tenant more than $500. And that tenant won't have to worry about, oh, if I make more money, I will not get that benefit anymore because it's not on them. So we want them to be able to make as much money as they can comfortably without the stress of saying, oh my God, if I get this raise, my rent gonna jump up to $800, $900, or $1,500. It won't be people specific, it'll be home specific. And I have a whole download of that on one of my pages too as well.
I want to ask something out of left field. Where are you with marijuana legalization? This is serious because I feel like that we're going into the future where I have a feeling people are going to have to get tested. I really think that that's going to come from the governor or Baton Rouge or whatever. So if we legalized marijuana and the people that had resources that would get canceled because of marijuana, when that is there's so many other problems that we have to worry about than that. But I question if we were able to legalize marijuana and then did drug tests. If we legalize pot, then there would be theoretically nothing to worry about with a piss test, right?
You ready for this? Listen, now, hear me and hear me well, okay? I don't think we need to legalize it. I think we need to decriminalize it. Because when we legalize it, it's just a way for the government to say, hey, now let me tax you on it. But when we decriminalize it, then you don't have that extra burden, right? You don't have that extra burden to consider because it's not a criminal offense. The reason, let's think about this, and then we will still have them to say, but with excessive, there will be situations and things of that nature because alcohol is sold in these stores like 90 going west, and there's not a lot of regulations on how much a person can consume a purchase. So I had a conversation with another person, and they were like, hey, we need to legalize it. No, we need to decriminalize it. If you feel that it is not an issue, and once we give people the power to understand their limits, people will then be able to act like people again. But a lot of people like to go against the grain, but if there's no grain to go against, you keep yourself accountable for your actions, right? Because people only majority people love to be a rebel. But if there's not a reason to be a rebel regarding that matter, people will consume responsibly, more responsibly. Theoretically. 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 But listen, again, most people only like to do the thing that is wrong. So if you minimize what's not wrong, they'll have to find something else to be a rebel about. So my goal is let's decriminalize it.
So when you say decriminalize it, do you mean also to where if there are people that rely on services and resources that wouldn't affect them? Like maybe change the contract, change the way that they are that these citizens get resources, because right now I don't think there's any tests or anything that happens. So it's just like, you get the services. But to really, I think accountability and merit, that's where I think really plays and that's in everything. Some cat off the street thinks like they haven't really worked hard to get where they want. But then this Joe over here has. I think that there should be merit, right? And that comes with testing. And if you get resources and you do drugs, should you get resources?
So let me say this. I want to go to your first part first. I've been told that unlike alcohol, where you could test the level of consumptions, with weed or marijuana, you cannot. And they say it stays in the system longer. So imagine if we, especially if it was already legalized, we couldn't effectively or impactfully test to see the amounts or how long. So it would put too many people in jeopardy if we legalize it and test, right? So the fact that we would have to decriminalize it means that if it is done,
then it won't be a problem.
Then it won't be a problem, right? Okay. And then to answer the next question about the drugs, medicine is a drug. So a lot of times, and I guess I know that there are some tests that can be done to see what type of drug was consumed, if it was but then, so how I feel about life is for real. Even the regulatory drugs or the approved drugs, they don't mean that they're necessarily the best drugs for you either, right? So I want to get us to a state of accountability as people. Myself, I don't consume alcohol or drugs or weed of any sort. Doesn't mean I'm any better than anyone. It's just my choice. So which means that people can make choices according to their needs. I believe that when we understand the need of our resources and our jobs, and so maybe that's why you're asking, if people's lives depended on it, I guess you said they would not really utilize it, right? So that was a good one. You see how you made me think a little bit more? I love that. So, you know what? Now I'm going to have to consider, because it's like, I believe that we have a lot of people who are adequate to make responsible decisions. The only reason why I choose not to drink and smoke is because I lost my dad to lung cancer and liver cancer. Thank you. So that is not like, hey, but that's why when I seen what he went through.
It affects your spirit.
Yes. So that's my reasoning, right? So I guess considering your question, my biggest thing and objective will be now to do more research on how do I assist people to make more accountable choices for their betterment of their livelihoods. And I believe when we go into this thriving community, that we'll have more accountable people. Right now, people have to find alternatives to deal with the lack that they're experiencing. So it's understood that drugs, alcohol, and those things are a go-to. So the goal is to create a thriving community which will allow people to become their greater self.
And with that comes accountability. When you greater yourself and when you rise, then that everything just falls in order, right? All right, as we wrap up, Miss Renada, I want to ask you, what on day one, if you were elected as mayor of New Orleans, what would you do in your first day of office and your third day of office?
Now, do you want me to be authentic and honest?
Always.
So, my first day of office, if I tell you something, I'll just be telling you something, right? So, how about on the first day of office and the third day of office, I invite you back and you follow what I'm doing, and then you report. Is that a good thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't like to just have a conversation just to have a conversation.
You don't have a priority list?
So we do have we do have a priority list. It's just that we haven't decided how we was going to share it with the community. And secondly, because our priorities change as the need is changing and as the transformation is taking place. When we first went into this game, we were doing things as usual. Hold up, let me say this. We were doing, let me tell you, this is true. When I first became considered to become mayor, we was doing the traditional ways. As I have been embarking upon taking this community as my child, right, as a partnership into transformation, those things has been changing, right? They've been changing because we're going into transformation. Like even people becoming currency, right? So as things evolve, as we're in the metamorphosis stage of this, things are changing. And so I wouldn't want someone to be hung up on what I said I'm going to do day one when that has the possibility.
Safety and terrorism is number one.
So listen, I'm hoping to do that before.
I want to say that. Terrorism and safety, to me, I don't want to say that's more important than homelessness. I love everyone equally. But there was a ball that was dropped on January 1st, and I hope that whoever sits in the mayor's seat not revisits that because we grow, but a priority list that names safety for our citizens, you know, as not necessarily number one, but hopefully in the top three.
Most definitely. Safety is my biggest priority. One, because without people, we have nothing. So to protect the people is the greatest thing. And so with that being said, and I'll tell you this with my safety plan, right? We do have officers or law enforcement who are not from New Orleans. So my goal is to preserve the culture of New Orleans, the people, because let me tell you, thank you so much. Remember I told you I lived in Minnesota for 4.5 years? And they told me in Minnesota, her school would say, "Oh, my daughter was rude." And I couldn't understand for the life of me how my sweet, amazing daughter was rude. And I would watch and I was like, I don't see what they were talking about, right? So I also had a friend who's from Minnesota, and he told me, he said, "Listen, Renada, if my stepsister wasn't from New Orleans," he said, "I think you're so bossy and rude. Y'all be like, go get my purse, go get me this, go do that." That's the New Orleans culture. So law enforcement, when they encounter us, they don't always understand the culture. So my goal is to create a plan that in that where they would understand the culture, not as a disrespectful way, but how to effectively communicate. That's what we must do. If that disconnect is there and not recognizable, we don't understand how we can better one another. So we have to protect the culture, which means that you being from New Orleans, it'll be understood that, hey, if I say man, it's still passion. I know that because I'm from here. I know that because I live here. I don't see certain things that certain people would say as offensive or aggressive. And I'm like, so for me, I understand that. And we have to get law enforcement that is not from here to also understand that, so we can have a better united city. Because we must cohabitate effectively in our city. And we shouldn't just preserve the culture of the buildings. We shouldn't just preserve the culture of the food, but we must preserve the culture of the people who are from here, so that we could so that New Orleans could stay New Orleans. Because if we lose the culture of the people, we've lost the city of New Orleans. And that's not no one's objective, I don't believe. I think our overall objective is to preserve New Orleans. Another thing that I plan is what is one of the best things that we do here in law enforcement as New Orleans like no other city? I know, police force wise. I know every time I ask, most people don't understand, but let me tell you, the officers of New Orleans, the law enforcement, we have the best crowd control ever. We know how to control a crowd and still allow people to have a great time. Now, one of the ways I plan to create revenue is to create consultants within in our police force, right? That they would go out and train other cities and communities how to effectively do crowd control. So that's one of the ways that I plan to bring in revenue too as well. And speaking with the person who I have in mind for the police chief and hopefully the city council approve, right? We're creating a place where they will go through the sheriff department so they can understand how the jail system works, and then it will come to the NOPD after that, so that we could we have to create unity. Unity builds community. That's my overall objective. One of my overall objectives is to create a more unified city where we connect. That's the goal.
So with our audience that's been watching this, where can they find more information about you and your platform, your campaign, like your site, your socials?
Okay. Right now, the website is, because like I said, we're going from traditional politics to a transforming the city. So the site right now just have the election day on it, and it says, hey, elect, because we're now creating the transformation plan for the city. So right now you'll get that one pager that just says, hey, elect Renada Collins, and the goal is to have it up by qualifying. Okay. By qualifying, you'll be able to see the whole everything. And we may have it up sooner, but that's the goal. Collins4NewOrleans.com. My Facebook is still active, Renada Collins for Mayor 2025, and my Instagram is also still active, elect_Renada Collins _ for Mayor. Okay. I think that's what it is. So, and listen, guys, but more than anything, guess what? Pop up on me at 2741 Tulane. That's where my headquarters is, and I absolutely love it. I'm across the street from the criminal court. That was intentional. I must hear and understand the needs of the community so that we can effectively move forward to have an impact in our community. Those, generally the people who I speak with are some of the ones who are dealing with the most stress. And I hear a lot of them say, I'm ready to leave New Orleans. I'm ready to leave New Orleans. Before I ran for mayor, I was ready to leave New Orleans. I was moving. I had already found a place in Colorado. And God said, Renata, don't run from the city, run for the city. It took me some time because I was going back and forth. I don't know if you know, but right now the city of New Orleans is not qualified for federal funding because of the illegal rezoning that took place last year under our current administration, the city council. So we are disqualified for federal funding. We're disqualified for federal funding. And I went back and forth, asking them, please do not rezone this area. Please do not rezone this area because it impacts the whole city. Even though that's one area, it impacts the whole city of New Orleans. Remember when Hurricane Francine came, all of the cities and parishes around us was getting disaster relief SNAP. We didn't because we're not eligible. we didn't get FEMA assistance because we're not eligible, and that's because of what our current leadership has done. That's unacceptable. So, yeah, that's why I'm running.
You said that was a good little thing. You said don't run from, run for. That's good. You know what? I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for your time. You guys go visit her platform on socials and her site. And as we always say, I send you from me and my family Nola love.
Thank you so much for having us, guys, and thank you for your time. And remember, 2741 Tulane is an open platform, and on the 31st, we're having a signature brunch drive. Come on in. I would love to meet you. Have an amazing day. Nola love.
I love it. Nola love.